荒川。In the previous episode, 前回までのあらすじ。リバプール生まれの戦う詩人スティーブン・ファウラーはスコットランド生まれの鍛える詩人コリン・ハードの歪んだ愛情表現としてことあるごとにスコットランドに因縁をつけていた。ある時日本の詩人が現れグラスゴーで詩を朗読する羽目になり、その運命を呪ったスティーブンは陰謀の大きさの青い象に姿を変えられてしまう。コリンはスティーブンをポケットに旅を続け、行く先々で魔法を解く努力を重ね、ついに GoTo サインに導かれ日本にたどり着く。城崎温泉の魔力を試みるが、スティーブンは温泉臭くなってしまっただけだった。
I was running along the Arakawa River the first morning I arrived here. Like spoken word. On my way up there, I stopped running and waited patiently for every crossing to turn green. Like spoken word. I was ashamed of having left the apartment later than I liked to. Like spoken word. And I'd eaten bread with blueberry jam. Like spoken word. And yogurt. Like spoken word. The air was very crisp. It sort of burned. Like spoken word. I wore 2 pairs of joggers and 3 upper layers. Like spoken word. I had a sock in each pocket, which I intended to use as gloves, like spoken word. In fact, they were more useful as handkerchiefs, like spoken word, because of the cold. I took some photographs of cool buildings, just average buildings, and this amazing large waterworks building, like spoken word. I also took a picture from an acceptable distance, like spoken word, of some kids on the lower tier right next to the river who were flying homemade kites, like spoken word. I took a picture of a very pallid and sort of played golf course that was washed out and yellow, like spoken word, which I intended to send a photo of on WhatsApp to my dad and his wife, like spoken word. The night before, I'd been out to a gay bar, like spoken word, called Eddie's. I never usually do that, like spoken word, or going to the doctor. It was a tiny bar with 6 customers, 7 when I walked in, like spoken word. They laughed that I was wearing a face covering, like spoken word, and they made me verify verbally that I was gay, like spoken word, but then didn't take me at my word on this point and asked me if I was sure, which is the only time in my life that's happened, like spoken word. I didn't tell any jokes, like spoken word. But they found my embarrassingly low level of Japanese language amusing, like spoken word. I had been collecting interesting phrases I'd encountered since I arrived, like spoken word, including the sentence, "We can't guide you, even if you are separated." I said, "I can say arigato, and that's you exhausted me," like spoken word. I got a welcome drink from the barman, like spoken word, and then some drinks from customers, like spoken word. And I bought one drink, like spoken word. It was the National Song of the Year Awards that evening, like spoken word. And every act that emerged onto the screens, one big, two small, the customer next to me asked me if I knew them, And I said, no, sorry, but they seem good, like spoken word. The barman told me I was handsome over and over. And yes, I'm the center of this
私は
story,
書き言葉のようにこ
like
の物語
spoken
の
word.
中心です。
They asked me if I had a steady, and I said, rhymes with Eddie, like spoken word, but no. And they asked why, like spoken word. I left after my one beer, like spoken word, because I was getting tired from necking a whole box of GABA for sleep chocolates, like spoken word. I was at kilometre about 15 of 35, like spoken word, and I was listening to my playlist on headphones, like spoken word. I upped my pace when I was actually along the riverbank, like spoken word. And when Here Comes the Hot Stepper came on, I felt pleased with myself, like spoken word. I saw some more kites in the distance, fluttering about in the breeze, and it seemed both way too beautiful and obvious in a sickly Studio Ghibli way, like spoken word. The song on my playlist at that moment was Nelly Furtado's I'm Like a Bird, which has the lyric, I always fly away, like spoken word. As I reached a crest, I noticed a little pink papery object, like spoken word, catching in the breeze and gathering momentum, like spoken word. I glanced down and saw that scampering up behind it was a little boy, like spoken word. He was chasing after the papery thing, like spoken word. I put my foot on the string of the kite, like spoken word, to stop it flying away, like spoken word, and to allow the kid to retrieve the kite. Nelly Furtado was still singing, but I knew it wouldn't be long before Biba Doobie did the cover of The Adults Are Talking by The Strokes, like spoken word. In the bar, the guys asked me if I was open about my sexuality with friends and family. And I said, so you believe me now, like spoken word. And then I said, yes, I am, yes. And they all clapped vigorously and nodded with sage endorsement and approval, like spoken word.